tonight.
You're listening to the Doug Stanhope Podcast.
Chaille, Becker's chewing in the microphone.
I'm not even chewing in the microphone.
He's chewing towards the microphone. He's chewing near a microphone.
Jesus Christ.
Not just chewing bread, which is it's not like it's going to finish fast.
It's not as bad as apples, which Chaille likes to chew in the car.
Doritos with those really fancy flavors, because then you lick your fingers.
Well, no, that gets into an Andy Andrus thing, is crinkling bags. He hates that, and I've picked up his, it's not a phobia, but it's a fucking annoyance. He's got crinkling bags, so now when I crinkle a bag around people, I think, oh, fuck, someone here hates me as much as Andy Andrus would hate me. But I'm a misophonia guy. Chewing sounds make me fucking sickened.
No. Mouth sounds, not just chewing.
Well, it's
like
a
someone
specific,
smacking their gum.
What about those wind-up teeth?
NPR.
Anything?
That's not smacking. NPR, where Terry Gross leans in and like that. It's just such a hard microphone. You can hear every piece of it. Sounds like a tadpole going through a dryer.
I love that you hate it so much you couldn't even do a good example.
I
you
can't
want to
do
gross
it because I don't want to gross out other people. We had an old rule. When they go into the archives of this podcast, which history is certain to do, those were the two things: no mouth sounds and no chicks on the podcast. And right now, in this current climate, it usually means no girlfriends on the podcast. But we have two chicks on the podcast because they're fucking fantastic. Morgan Murphy, everyone knows.
Hi. Hello.
Chaille's here. He's not a chick. Becker's here. We did this podcast last night without. Don't worry, that's part of the podcast. Okay. Drinks shaking in the background, dogs barking.
Just no smacking.
Valentina, jump a little lighter. Senorita, come sit by my fire. Valentina, who Morgan Murphy has talked up. Morgan.
I mean, talked up. I think I spoke accurately about her background.
Oh, you fucking talked her up,
Yeah.
which is a good thing because she lived up finally to one of your recommendations.
Yeah. All the myriad of people I've been bringing by your house.
No, you said,
Prince.
you should really have her on your podcast.
Well, I think I said you want to meet her.
She's willing to come down, which is even more of a glowing example of she's going to drive all the way from Tucson. That's like a 2-hour drive.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you were excited to come to Bisbee in general.
Bisbee's amazing.
Yeah, Doug was not part of the equation until you guys met.
But you did. I want you to introduce her based on what you did.
Well, what I did was I found out about this organization based in Arizona called
name of?
Florence Project, and it was in this sort of peak of what was being publicized about immigration and stuff. And obviously, I was sitting at home, and I was like, "What do I do? I'm white, lady," and I found some, I kind of did like a little bit of research, but I wanted to do something here, and I found this group, and they ended up sending a lawyer to do radio with me when I said, hey, can I do a benefit show for you guys in Tucson? And they sent Valentina, and we did morning radio with Christine and stuff in town. And
Christine Levine.
Yeah, and that was great.
Podcast favorite.
And did the show there, and then ended up being able to do a show in LA and raise a bunch of money, and then Valentina came out to LA with me to do that show, and we've just basically became good buddies. And
we'll get into that, but before I forget, because I forget everything. When you you say she did the show with you. Did you
Oh, I'm so
actually
sorry.
go on stage?
Well, no, but Valentina's an attorney for the Florence Project, which I should have emphasized.
But when you said she did the show in L.A.
Well,
I
she
just ran out and gave some numbers.
Yeah, she did
very
the show.
quickly.
She did the radio show with me in Tucson, and then she came out on stage at Largo in LA, and we basically did a little bit of a Q&A. So like a bunch of comics, really great comics, did the benefit show, which was amazing.
It was
and
so
then
good.
and then I brought her out and just kind of said, "Hey, what's happening right now?" And
All right, explain, because it's a very niche market for your.
Yes.
The charity is, or not charity, the
It's a nonprofit organization, yes, Florence Immigrant and Refugee Rights Project. We represent both detained and non-detained men, women, and children who face immigration deportation in Arizona, and we're the only group to do it.
mentally ill immigrants being held in cages.
So
It's like the Innocence Project, but if you only did rape victim,
there's a lot of domestic violence. There's a lot of survivors of domestic violence.
But her specialty is detaining. I mean, is defending people who are mentally ill. But the whole organization.
Oh, okay. So that's not the whole
So
organization.
the whole
That's
org
just you.
represents
That's
immigrants who are in immigration.
That's your
proceedings.
specialty.
Yes,
Your special teams.
Well, we have a special team that represents people who are seriously mentally ill and have been found incompetent to represent themselves in immigration proceedings. This right does not exist in all states, but it does exist in Arizona. So we are appointed by the court, and we are then their qualified representative, which is more than just being a lawyer. It's making sure they get treatment. It's making sure they have housing. It's supposed to be holistic representation, and it is.
I remember we went through this last night. Last night we did this podcast, and it was wildly inappropriate that we even tried to do this because you showed up at like 2:30 in the morning because you're an immigrant yourself. You're like a Colombian or something.
Yeah.
It's true.
She came through the dark of night. She snuck into Bisbee.
Underground Railroad. You got into this how? You're only 28.
I think that the short answer, why am I an immigration attorney for people who are mentally ill? My parents are immigrants, and I am mentally ill. My parents are Colombian, and they came here before I was born to study computer programming, and the United States was good to them, and they really prospered, and my brother and I were really, really lucky to grow up here. And when I was 25, I was diagnosed as bipolar, and it's informed a lot of my life since then. And I realized in working with people who were incarcerated or were in criminal proceedings or were trying to apply for DACA, I noticed that there was a population that really wasn't getting served, and it was people who are seriously mentally ill because they're seen as too hard to deal with.
Well, you have the double whammy of I'm an illegal immigrant and I'm also mentally ill. Mm-hmm. And add probably don't speak the language on top of that. You get tased quite a bit. I would assume, yes, you're getting tased. There was a story in today's Newser about an 87-year-old woman
For stealing dandelions.
She was cutting down dandelions from a field, and they said, "You can't be here." And she's like, "What?" She had a kitchen knife to cut dandelions down to eat, which is the most fucked up part.
That's the worst part.
You eat dandelions? How poor? And they tased her. Anyway, I forget my point.
It made the dandelions really crisp, though. That's the preferred way to eat those.
If you can't afford electricity to
You'll
cook them,
take these cooked dandelions from my cold, dead hand. Okay.
Preferred.
But she wasn't mentally ill even. She just
didn't speak the language.
Yeah. So do you speak Spanish?
I do. It's my first language.
When did you learn that?
Oh, fuck, Becker. Don't get me started.
She just said it was her first language,
Yes.
Becker.
She's from Colombia.
Well, no, I know.
I mean, she's from Boston, but
Go Pats.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry, everyone.
You were actually born here. Your parents weren't.
But I do identify as Colombian, and I appreciate that.
But it wouldn't be her first language then. She could have learned English.
But my parents didn't speak very good English at the time, and I grew up at the house, and so we mostly spoke Spanish. I learned English once I started school, and I was talking to kids in school.
This is so off topic, and we're going to
I'm
get
so
into
sorry.
this. But
oh no, it's not you.
when you say you are born here, but you identify as Colombian, I was born here, and then when I wrote my book, I found out that my grandmother was born in Canada, and my great-grandmother was born in Scotland. And so can I say, hey, well, what's your heritage? Well, I'm American-Canadian. Says born here, but my grandmother was born in Canada. No one says that.
I think it really depends on what it is that you take from your culture. So, for example, with being Colombian, I think that I do what I do because I'm Colombian, and I like to think that I would have done it if I weren't. But the fact of the matter is that I feel like I have this duty to all of the people who weren't as fortunate as I was, and I missed it by a sliver, and that all just, feels so left up to chance and unfair.
So you'd do the same thing if you were in Colombia. You would, like George Young from Blow, who did a lot of business in Colombia, you would go, I'm going to fight for his civil rights to score Blow in Colombia. All right, let's get back to you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Little off topic.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I told everyone, let's not get off topic, knowing I'd be the first guy to get off topic. Why are you committing your life to make America not great again by letting mentally ill Colombians into our country?
I think it's an existential crisis. I think,
Don't you use big words on my fucking podcast.
I think that it has to do with my terror of living. And I think that's sort of existential. But no, I think that really, what else am I here for? And I don't mean that in a self-righteous way. I don't think that everyone should be doing this work, but I feel every day that I don't know why I'm here other than to be next to people.
All right. Sorry, that the dog loves to make porn sounds in the background.
Yeah.
Give us.
Hold on a second. Do the dog mouth sounds bother you?
I was wondering that too.
No, they don't.
That's odd.
Unless he's licking a sore.
Yeah.
If he has a hot spot.
When Ichabod chews gum, Doug can't handle it.
Shut up, honker. Oh, that stuff she was doing today makes me crazy. And
I have allergies.
I have to understand she's a friend, but Morgan makes old odd couple sounds of can you create?
No, I have allergies.
I know,
and
but
sometimes
could you
I get
create that? I can't
sort of the
create
phlegm
that sound.
situation.
Can you do that for the
what
people?
happens when Judaism meets dander or something? I don't know, but it's a thing. It's not my fault. It's when it's green out here.
I would throw up if I tried to recreate the sounds you make.
All right. Well.
I can't do it.
Like the guy in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles that picks up John Candy and.
I'm to drive you to Wichita to catch a train?
Yeah, we'd appreciate it.
Train don't run out of Wichita. Unless you're a hog or a cattle.
That's the sound.
Yeah, the cab driver, yeah.
You won't be able to hear it when I kill myself after this podcast. So.
I was going to ask you, give us an example, the listener, of your day, rather than the mumbo jumbo of what you do.
Yeah.
What do you
No big
do
words.
on a daily basis?
She brings me my keys at the DoubleTree to my truck.
With the breakfast sandwich.
Yeah. Sometimes I send her my keys because I thought she was going to drive my truck to LA. So first she brings me my keys to the DoubleTree so I can drive my Tacoma to Bisbee and then go say what you do.
What's the address?
This is starting to sound like the Florence Henderson Project.
Oh, I thought it was Flo from the Alice. Go ahead. So seriously,
That day was pretty typical. After I left,
I mean, dealing with people that you deal with, someone has been detained.
So I have clients in detention and I have clients out of detention. My clients in detention, I see them and I can visit them, and that's wonderful. I also see them in court, and it's really disgusting because the courthouses are actually within the detention centers. So if you're detained, you don't even leave the facility to go to court.
Let me boil it down even more. Give us a hypothetical example based on one of your clients. But now he's hypothetical.
I have a client.
Why is it a he?
It's I'll go with that. I have a client who was incarcerated. He came to the United States, and
where?
at the border, he asked to see a doctor. He said that he needed to see a psychiatrist and that he wanted help. And he was incarcerated. He was incarcerated for about 15 months before he was released. He's
Incarcerated
schizophrenic.
meaning prison, not one of these.
No, in a detention center
Without medication.
But I've been in both, and they look like prisons.
Wait, incarcerated without any medication, or incarcerated
Well,
while
so
being...
it depends on the person. It really does.
We're
and it
just
depends
going
on the
with this
facility.
hypothetical
And
guy.
this person was not medicated. He was hearing voices, and he told me that he was telling the doctors.
What
that
language?
He speaks Spanish. But the detention, it's so this individual was not medicated in detention, despite the fact that he told me that he was reporting his symptoms, and then he was released, and we are lucky enough to be able to represent people not only in court but once they're released. And so I went and I got him a bus pass, and we went to the treatment center. We had made an appointment just in case he got out. He was able to get in front of a doctor. He was able to get treatment. We got a library card. Like, this is what the day looks like. The day looks like driving to the middle of nowhere to go to court inside a detention center.
Yeah.
And then
Now, I'm assuming this is Florence, which
Arizona, and
is
Eloy, Arizona.
a renowned prison town.
It's just
it's the
full
worst.
of detention centers.
The only thing worse is that one in Louisiana. I can't remember the name, but you know the one. But yeah, it's fucking horrific. So you drive into the middle of nowhere, in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, there's a middle or nowhere? Okay, that's where I work. Yeah. And it's hot and filthy, and they're cruel and unusual. And so you go. I'm going to get off topic again. Keep going.
I mean, that's what the representation looks like. I mean, we're just shuttling around from Phoenix to Tucson, where our clients are released, and we're representing people who are in other states even. And it's a lot of work, but it's amazing. It just becomes your life. There's no way for it not to. I mean, I just got a call from a client, and I couldn't not take it because I know he's in a shelter, and I know that he wanted to talk to me today. I mean, it's all the time, and it's beautiful.
How much have you ever gotten to a place where you go, all right, this is too like personal, not like where you go, I'm too involved and
Yes.
this person is beyond help and now they're counting on me?
I don't think that we can ever consider any of our clients beyond help, because I think that if we classify any of our clients that way, even just subconsciously, we won't be able to do the work. You have to always think that...
All right, then let me rephrase, Your Honor.
Yes, counsel.
I would, have you ever gotten yourself where you're too close personally with a client where he's expecting more than I can give?
I think that's a lot of what we're trained to do, and a lot of the challenges in this work is drawing boundaries, because when you are giving so much to people, where to draw the line is really difficult. It's easier, for example, not that this is an easier job, I respect public defenders tremendously, but with a public defender, in most offices, not holistic offices, but in most offices, you're representing them in one case that has to do with one incident. In these cases, the cases are about their entire lives. They're about the story of a country, and we're able to give them so much outside of detention that figuring out where it stops is, and you don't want it to stop. You don't want to say no to people, especially when you see how much very little gets them. But it's definitely, boundaries are something that we really work on a lot as a group, because it does get confusing. I do a lot of therapy about this.
You and Bingo, who bonded miraculously
I love
during
her. She's a beautiful
this
soul.
trip. You talked about that earlier about I lost my point.
Attachment.
Boundaries in that fuck it. Go ahead, just keep talking.
No.
I lost my thought. I can't do three things at once. I'm trying to tell him one thing.
Don't ever juggle.
I remember
Becker can juckle.
I don't know if it's like weird to bring up, but it's so funny. Like, I was in the middle of doing a lot of nothing when I was here and sort of found out about the Florence Project. And then when I met Valentina, it's like, first of all, I knew I was going to meet someone I respected based on her job or whatever. But then you talk to someone and you go, oh, this person is almost a decade younger than me and is
gross.
Like saving the world. And there is an element of, and I don't know if this is something you come across when you meet people, but there's an element of me going, oh, what do I do? Like compared to like actually saving people.
But I think
Fucking
Morgan's a good
every
example
day.
because she saw this and she recognized, and this is what she says when she talks about this, is that she realized that she was on the border and that she couldn't not do anything about it. And Morgan's not a lawyer. She's not a social worker, but she organized but she organized, multiple events, and she introduced me to Doug, and, you were able to reach people in different ways, and everyone brings whatever they have to it.
My only skill is that I know some rich people.
I did a huge bit about this on one of my last specials about raising awareness, and that's as a bad thing. But this is something that, people don't know about this. It's usually when a kid has cerebral palsy and I'm going to do a fun run to raise awareness. Well, people know about cerebral palsy. They do not know about people being detained as immigrants with mental illness. Yeah, that's something you go, yeah, this is fucked up. Maybe we should raise awareness.
Yeah, but I think it's hard to. I'm sorry.
Right now, because of what's going on with the political climate, that you guys are stressed really thin because there's a zero tolerance that's really pushed things
So everyone gets charged.
So you do pro bono? Is that everything?
We are totally.
So
free.
you're 100% donations.
Like the Innocence Project,
Yes,
which I have to always plug.
But we meaning we're pro bono. We don't charge anyone.
Yes.
All of our clients are.
But you guys run on donations, and all of a sudden something happens in the government, and you guys are swamped like never before, right? So I mean,
So donations go up.
Well, hopefully, but what happens is this is a time when there might be a certain amount of awareness, but now you guys have a chance to really get it out because of what's happening.
What
And
is
by
the
the way,
name?
donations also go up.
Wait, hang on, let's do that.
the Florence Immigrant and Refugee Rights Project. We're on Facebook.
I hope
Kinda
that there's
wordy.
It's FIRRP.org, but the
Ferp.
Florence. I know. I know.
No, that's how my audience will remember it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll help a little bit more. We are called Furpies, so
Burpees.
do with that what you will. We're on Facebook.
I
we're
high-fived
on
a girl
Twitter.
earlier over our common herpes affliction. I don't
No,
remember who it was.
it's burpees, sir, not herpes.
Whoever laughed dealt it.
Yeah, it's funny because I think the thing that really obviously triggered my I don't want to say interest, but triggered my sort of involvement or whatever was obviously everybody was affected by like seeing kids and stuff, and it's interesting because that brings you in to a situation and then you end up learning the larger picture, which is that obviously it's still, you can vouch for me, there's still that there are still separated families.
Absolutely.
And you guys
Yes.
handle that.
Yes.
And
Well, that's why we're promoting FERP
but
on
it's-
this podcast.
the thing
because
I've-
most
yeah.
of our people don't give a shit about kids being separated from their mothers. but because my fan base, for the most part, doesn't have kids, but they're lonely men that barely speak English, even though they're from here, and they're mentally ill. So you are the perfect guest to promote this, and we will promote the shit out of it.
Thank you.
Are we at the 20?
Yep.
All right. Please hold. We have to, at the 20-minute mark, we're always obligated to do
Cocktails!
And now, MyBookie.ag presents Sports Corner with Doug Stanhope and Cold Cut Kenny, with a special appearance by Jack Napier. Cold Cut Kenny rolling some hot dice this week. Picked Cincinnati over the Ravens on Thursday night.
I told you they were going to whoop them. This week I got Cincinnati as well, but I got that in a parlay with the Cleveland Browns and the Chicago Bears. It's looking like a good little bet here.
Yeah, well, you all that money you won on Cincinnati, you lost betting against my lock, the Rams.
Yeah, that was another parlay bet I laid down, and I got 2 out of the 3 thanks to the dang Rams.
Don't bet against me, Kenny. I'm 2-0. Both of my first 2 weeks. My pick of the week has landed solidly. The Rams were, I got them at 12 points.
They ended up winning by 37 points.
I said that's going to be a 30-point game minimum.
And my lock of the week is going to be Chicago Bears over the Arizona Cardinals. Even though the Cardinals are at home, they're not looking so good to me this year. They're looking like a flop team.
Arizona's getting 6 points on that too, or it might be 6.5.
I thought it was 3.
No, it's 6.5.
Oh, okay. Good.
Well, good for you.
The great thing is with mybookie.ag, they have in-game live betting, over-unders on fantasy points. I don't even know what that means, but they do it right there on mybookie.ag. And it's the most rewarding player perks in the business. MyBookie, you win, they pay.
And we do have a new feature here on Sports Corner. We have Jack Napier, our friend, who's locked away in an East Coast facility for the criminally insane. He did the bad thing one time.
Ouch.
Yeah. So he's in there till one day if they see fit to release him. But he's got access to the phone and he's got access to my bookie. Here's Jack Napier. He phoned in his pick.
Hi, this is Jack Napier, and this is your criminally insane cell block lock of the week. Brought to you by mybookie.ag. I'm taking the Oakland Raiders +3 at the Miami Dolphins, and you must be crazy if you don't take my pick. See ya.
Jack going with the road team, taking Oakland +3 at Miami.
That sounds like a pretty good pick. I'm just saying that because I'm scared.
I like Jack. I like a lot of games this week, but I'm going to have to go with my lock this week is going to be I'm buying the hype in Tampa on Monday night. Plus, I fucking hate the Steelers. Fuck the Steelers.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay's getting a point.
1.
At home on Monday night against the Steelers.
Steelers are at home or they're at home? Tampa Bay's at home. Tampa Bay's at home,
I
correct?
fucking love that. I love that. It bothered me. The Fitzgerald guy.
Oh, he's
his big Viking beard and his big Viking head, but then he dressed up like fucking Conor McGregor in that press conference, and I hated him.
He's on fire, though. I have to say, I drafted him on my fantasy league as well.
All right, well, there you go. MyBookie. Head over to MyBookie right now. I implore you.
Place those bets.
Put your money where your mouth is. Join now. MyBookie.ag will match your deposit dollar for dollar. Use promo code Stanhope to activate the offer. Visit MyBookie online today. That's MyBookie. And don't forget to use the promo code Stanhope when creating your account to claim up to $1,000 in free play. And remember, MyBookie is slammed with new bettors. I hope they're all using promo code Stanhope. And they want to give everyone the best service possible. So if you're willing to deposit after 7 p.m. Eastern, they'll give you an additional $25 free play on deposits over $100. So if you're willing to hold out till after 7, you can get an extra $25 free play by using promo code Stanhope25. So new accounts use promo code Stanhope. If you're already in the game and you're betting after 7 p.m., use promo code Stanhope25, the number 25.
25.
MyBookie.ag. You play, you win, you get paid. And we're back with Valentina, Restropo, Montoya. Was it? Did I fuck up the middle one? Because the middle one is the one that Restrepo.
How do you spell that?
Restrepo.
Or you already know the very famous Netflix.
So actually, that's the reason that's named. I'm
sorry, I stepped on his joke.
No. Move on with life.
Well, then don't fucking flitter around.
I wasn't. I was like,
what?
Set it all up, and it's over now.
Oh, yeah, you had to. Sorry.
No problem.
No.
Any relation. That's all I wanted to know.
Restrepo is a very common surname in Colombia, especially in the Medellin area. And I don't know military terms, but the individual who was killed in combat, his last name was Restrepo, and that's why they named the base in Afghanistan that the documentary follows, Restrepo.
All right. Let's get back to Chaille's pertinent questions. Like it's the only time I've
what?
You've
no,
never ruined a joke for me.
Don't worry about it.
Becker had something planned.
It's all right. And I also said, don't start with my question. We were going to do a little backup, and you're the one flopping around like a fish.
I think it's going great.
Valentina.
Could you defend Doug? Could you keep him in America?
I quit.
Is there a chance you could do a half-assed job and get him deported?
I want to know what the difference is between ICE, which is immigration
and customs enforcement,
and
customs and border patrol.
Customs border, because
we have border patrol
to me,
everywhere.
We have sheriffs, we have highway patrol, we got cops, we got ICE running around. I don't know what the fuck.
Only guy making money is hat cleaners.
The reason that you're seeing CBP, Customs and Border Patrol, so much is because you're so close to the border. Customs and Border Patrol is in charge of immigration and customs enforcement at the ports of entry, both on land and at the airports. So you've got a number of ports of entry here.
They'll also pull up if you get pulled over by the sheriffs on your way from Target after buying your first microwave for your first house in Bisbee. They'll pull up behind the sheriff to make sure
Rental
you're not
house.
any trouble.
Why do you sound like Katharine Hepburn?
Because I just want people to know that I was just trying to buy a microwave and a mop and a Swiffer and some stuff, and then they pulled me over and gave me a ticket for going too fast.
Were you talking too much over our guest? They'll get you for that too.
I should have brought you to traffic court.
That would have been the best.
Sorry. Continue.
We are 7 miles from the border.
Valentina, back to you.
So law enforcement, Customs and Border Patrol is in charge of law enforcement within 100 miles of the border. When you hear about people being caught in the desert, that's Customs and Border Patrol. They run short-term custody, so that's where people are detained with CBP before they're transferred to ICE facilities, ICE contract facilities like Florence and Eloy. ICE is internal immigration enforcement. So home raids, workplace raids, courthouse arrests, and they run and contract the long-term detention centers like Florence and Eloy, and are in charge of deports generally, except for expedited removals, which happened at the border.
So ICE is that's enforcement in the middle of the country. Like CDP is not rolling around Iowa.
No.
Okay. But then ICE can be here at our border?
Yes.
Oh, fuck. I don't know. That was very concise. Thank you.
All right.
But it seems like there's a lot of overlap there.
Yeah.
Let me be the dick. I'm easy at this. When it comes to immigration itself, if we had complete open borders, because I've been an open libertarian, but I don't know what it means. Where they go, we should have complete open borders. Yeah. How fucked would this country be?
I can't speak to what open borders would do. I think that militarizing the border is not the way to go.
No.
But
if you think about it, open borders make sense in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Half our retirees want to go somewhere warm. They'll go to Mexico. Half the workers want to go to go work somewhere. They can work in the America, in the Northwest steel industry. And all the white collar workers go to Canada, which they're already at. So I don't understand why we haven't already done this. It's the Mall of Americas.
This is why Becker's going to be the next mayor of Bisbee in 2020. Fuck. That's a dumb question for the end of this.
We haven't gone into like you did last night about when you were so young and when you wanted to know you and me, all that kind of shit was really.
Well, you went to Harvard. I remember that.
I went to Berkeley.
Berkeley. She would never go to Harvard.
Mom went to Harvard.
Wait. This morning when you were explaining football to me, you did the classic old comedy bit where every time she gave me a history. I go, I'm hungover. I go, I don't get soccer. We're watching Premier League. And I go, yeah, I'm rooting for Arsenal. I hope you're not rooting for Chelsea.
I wasn't.
And you were right. You hate Chelsea, Man U, and Man C in that order.
Real Madrid.
And Madrid, because that was the
Real
whole thing.
Madrid is not Premier League.
Yeah, but that was why she got into all the politics, was that
I know, but I know Premier League just enough to know about how many teams are in it.
But I love that when you asked about
fucking Francisco Franco and the thing
Johan
and
Cruyff.
the Castellana and the Catalunya.
Yeah.
But she did
why
the classic
Barcelona's
weather
a team for the people.
Do the weather person thing.
The weather person joke?
Yeah, the 80s evening at the Improv where people...
Hey, folks, you ever turn on the news there at night? And, I love the news there, but it was like, hi there, I'm Valentina Restrepo Montoya, and welcome to the... I didn't do the name right.
No, that sounded right.
You had it, where they just say Spanish words in Spanish.
Yeah, we're just trying to fuck with you.
Yeah, and you did. And I took my fucking coffee cup as you went into this long dissertation of fucking Generalissimo Francisco Franco, and the Barcelona Stadium is the only place that they could practice their art. And then I just walked out as you were talking. I go, yeah, I'm interested. Go ahead. And then I just left.
I remember the whole thing.
But you do that.
I thought it was fascinating.
I was going to say, can you just do... Fuck. God damn it.
Jesus.
I lost my thought
This
again.
is getting to be an epidemic.
Because the whole time he's got a pen and paper in front of him and he's not writing anything down.
No, this is what happened with Kurt Cobain.
After 3 hits.
I was going to say to you that you should do the never mind.
Did you want to know about my family?
Yeah.
Yeah. Say hello to my little friend.
Yeah, your mother went to Harvard.
The reason I say that.
Oh, that's what it was. I was going to say, can you just say Harvard?
No.
See, that was the just dumb joke I had. Yeah. When it comes to doing Massachusetts accents, can you do it the same way you do Barcelona accents and go, oh, and my mother went to Harvard? That was I had one fucking dumb joke. Go ahead. I'll never talk for the rest of this podcast. Go ahead.
Ask her a question, goddammit!
She was talking about her family.
She said, do you want to know about my family?
Ask her a question.
Your family sounds fascinating.
She asked her a question. How did you get started in this? And your family is from Money in Columbia, which are like 8 people.
The reason I wanted to know if you wanted to know about my family was because we had been talking about the sort of setup that my parents have going on. My parents are divorced, very happily divorced, and live in an RV motorhome together and travel the United States and Canada in said RV with each other with no other home base.
That's insane.
I swear to God,
that
they're the
is
happiest
insane.
people.
Don't let him stop in Vegas because she's
How
gonna
big is the
spend
RV?
nest
Is it
egg.
one of those like extra with the pop-out walls, or is it just communal? Can't you free your mom from this situation? Are you not that good?
Yeah, that's beyond me.
Wow.
So,
That's
Valentina,
amazing.
they're known as full-timers?
Yes,
They're full-time?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the
That's
lingo.
how long?
2 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, they love it, and they've been everywhere, and they have favorite parks, and they know how to do the whole, and everyone is just really young because everyone's dealing. You see people who seem like they wouldn't be able to lift whatever or start whatever, and they're doing everything with the RV. Go ahead.
I'm gonna put a prediction. Class A with 2 slide outs.
1 slide out.
Class A?
I don't know.
Is it over 35 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's classic.
I want to know if your divorced RV parents are like immensely proud of you.
I think so. And I mean, this is how it happens, right? My mom taught me to see people as people wherever we went, and my dad taught me to not let people push me around. So I kind of became an immigrant defense attorney.
There's a common myth, I guess, that naturalized legal immigrants are against illegal immigrants as much as Trumps and MAGAs and fucking other people. Like, no, I got here legally. Fuck that guy. Send him back. Do you find that to be true?
You mean with Trump and Ivanka? And...
No, I'm just saying general...
you mean the man on the street?
Legal immigrants, like legal Mexicans.
It
don't
is
want
actually a thing.
illegal
It's a thing. It's not the same as somebody
I'm asking
else.
her.
I know, but...
We're not the guests.
I'm sorry.
Here, Becker.
Well, you could still read a book once in a while.
She's a sober
Jesus
person.
Christ.
She's
I
been
read the
sober for
news
2
every day.
years.
You act
And
like it
she's only
changes.
been mentally ill for 3 years.
You read it once 2 years ago.
Is this what it's like in the RV?
Yeah, this is triggering.
Do you find
You're
that
aware of this, though, that some immigrants that did it legally are against letting just everybody in.
Oh,
Most of California.
Thanks for asking that.
Well, no, it's on NPR. If you'd listen to it, because they smack their lips, you'd know it.
I believe you. I don't know.
No,
that I
okay,
can
yeah, no, it's not a huge group, but it is some.
That's
and
exactly what I was asking you earlier.
She knows as
This
much about it
is
as you do.
Blank cursory evidence. It said there's a word I can't find. That's allegory. It's where people say that hearsay.
Well, it's
Oh
just
my
hearsay.
god!
Hearsay.
Sorry, we were looking for that earlier.
Yeah, that works. It's not what I was looking for.
Oh,
Is it's hearsay that a lot of legal immigrants are against illegal immigrants
Again,
of their own
it's a
kind.
percentage, and if you inflate that percentage for your own benefit, then you're right. It's a much larger number than is realistic. But there is a certain percent. And one guy in
Hey,
California.
my guest is Matt Becker.
Well,
I'm asking
sorry.
her. You
I understand.
fucking fuck.
But you open a can of worms and then you go, let's stop fishing.
She's the only fisherman at the table.
Becker, could you
Fucking trout
explain
farm
how could
woman.
you explain how Jeff Sessions has affected the new bond?
Go ahead. Finish your sentence.
What's happening?
Finish
with
your
Jeff?
sentence.
I don't know. He's
Make a pussy
We have
joke.
a guest here.
I was getting into Jeff Sessions and his involvement in all of this, which I know our friend Valentina has more to say about.
Oh, good. Hey, Valentina.
Hello.
Quit clogging the
until-
mic, lady.
Until recently, people who were immigrants in detention had the right to what was called a Rodriguez bond. That meant that every 6 months, the government had to prove, or they had the opportunity to go into a hearing where the government would have to prove that they were still either a danger to the community or a flight risk and should therefore not be released. Jeff Sessions successfully did away with that case and that right, and so now if you are in immigration detention and you don't have a bond hearing scheduled, you don't know when you're getting out, and you don't know when someone's going to hear about why you should get out again.
For some of the cunts out there listening that don't know anything, you yourself have been locked up for 4 days, which I got arrested as a kid for 2 hours.
I
Fucking
didn't
living hell.
go to
So
a prison or anything. I just want to verify.
It was a mental illness thing. But anyone, I've seen where Bingo was locked up in a mental institution, which should be a healthcare facility. It's not. It's a fucking prison. So when people hear, 6 months is nothing. Yeah, that's because you've never spent the 1 hour of being processed and finger fucked and spread your ass cheeks, which would be rape beyond any Me Too situation. Oh, he wanted me to jerk off. Watch him jerk off. Being illegally locked up, just spread your cheeks and cough. If that happened to you or your wife, yeah, that's fucking rape. And that happens way more than Harvey Weinstein. I wanted to part. Sorry.
No, but we're living in a time when people are dismissive of, oh, it's only 6 months, you know? And then you go, yeah, but if their plane is 15 minutes late, they lose their fucking minds. I go,
good point.
You gotta be kidding me. You're gonna get on an air-conditioned plane. How about if I put you in the baggage?
And people are locked up indefinitely. It's not just for 6 months. I mean, at this point, if you don't have a hearing, you don't know when you're going to have a hearing again. You don't have the right to another hearing unless you're seriously mentally ill.
And no one can contact you?
It's very, very difficult to contact the facilities, to get into the facilities.
You have a very niche market in illegal immigrants with mental illness.
Yes.
But like he was just pointing at the book. I'm just started this book, Insane, by Elisa Roth, America's Criminal Treatment of Mental Illness, where we just warehouse mentally ill in prisons. And
yes, I think our prisons are the #1 healthcare provider in the country, and they're not providing healthcare from what I've seen, from what I saw in California, from what I saw in Alabama, from what I'm seeing in Arizona. Our most mentally ill population winds up detained because when you're seriously mentally ill, it's very easy to catch a charge.
What can I just, because I mean obviously I know, but what were you doing in Alabama specifically?
So first, we were involved in a lawsuit against the Alabama Department of Corrections, ADOC, because they were providing constitutionally inadequate medical care and mental health care, and they weren't complying with the Americans with Disabilities Act. After that, I was briefly a public defender in Birmingham, Alabama.
So do you just go into a courtroom and you're like, oh, I'm going against people who, like a lawyer for a prison is who you're competing with?
Someone who, yeah, I mean, in the case in Alabama, the people that you were in the room with were people who were representing both the prisons, the commissioner, and the contractors. Right. So they contracted.
So I'm guessing they're paid a little more than you.
Oh, they make so much money.
We talked about this last night, where when it comes to public defender versus prosecutor, it's all about wins. And we talked about this, which is really important. If you've never watched the documentary, The Staircase, it is one of the most influential documentaries I've ever watched that queered me to become the bitter alcoholic that I am. Where when you see...
That's weird because it came out 40 years after you became an alcoholic.
No, it came out in 2005 when I was at my best
20 years
alcoholic. That's when I was peaking. But for some reason, they allowed the documentary to focus on both the prosecution and the defense. And you see the games that they're playing. Let's make this guy look like a freak. He's bisexual. We found this out. They don't care if he's guilty or innocent. They just want to win. And that's how you grow in the system, just like an NFL team. It's wins and losses.
Well, and at least there are checks on that system. The check being there's a jury there, right? Someone's watching and someone gets to make a decision. In immigration courtrooms, it's no bigger than a regular room with a couple benches in the back that no one sits in. And then you've got 2 tables that sit not many feet in front of a more raised table, which is where the bench is. And there's no one else in there. So it's just a totally different vibe, with totally different parameters.
That's what I look for in healthcare.
A small room?
Yeah, with a clean table and everything's good. But
who are you going against?
The Department of Homeland Security.
Okay, so is there like another lawyer who's like,
yes,
here's my opinion on why you're wrong?
Yes. Here's my opinion on why your client is a danger to society, or they are a flight risk. They're not going to come back to their next hearing, and that's why they should continue to be incarcerated. Or this is why you should be
stop there. They might go back to their own country before we can deport them.
Yeah.
That's one of the, like, just in criminal law where they go, oh, he might leave. You can't leave this state, criminal. All right. Yeah. You got convicted. You can't leave our state. You came from another one. Then why would you want the fucking criminal?
The police
there?
can legally shoot you in this country if you try to commit suicide. They can shoot you to prevent you from committing suicide.
But if you're just committing a crime
real?
where they could shoot you in the leg, they'll just shoot you in the head.
It's illegal, so they can stop you in the process of a crime. Knife beats gun. Not so much.
This is one of those things where America has the best judicial system in the world. And my old joke was like, that's like being the prettiest Denny's waitress.
Right.
It doesn't work.
No, it does not.
It's fucking
there's always going to be flaws. The question is, and this is what it all boils down to, are we trying to fix it?
No.
No, everyone loves to see someone lose. If they ever, fuck him. Like, they hate their boss. They hate the guy that stole their car stereo. Fuck that guy. He should die. He should rot in prison. And have you any idea what the prison system is like? It's fucking disgusting.
I watched Oz.
One of the things that, like, kind of like, I don't know if this is, like, relevant at all, but that made me go, oh, it's like everything's a bureaucracy, is when you were talking about, because I was like, well, why is it so hard to, like, reunite kids and families and stuff? And you were saying something about, like, that they're operated by different organizations.
They're different agencies, like the Office of Refugee.
So the kids are the kids and the parents, adults and kids are two different groups are in
so
charge.
one's under ICE and the other one's under the Office of Refugee Resettlement.
And there's not, like, one main registry of, like, where everybody is.
Not that we know of.
Fascinating.
I was one of the questions I threw my pen down because I forgot was the bureaucracy. And when you said you just taking someone out to do this and that, like, how much work is that? Like, you have some mentally ill guy and you're going to take him to, I forget what you were saying. You just
to treatment centers
yes,
and to
treatment
get bus
centers.
passes.
Bus pass, that's what it was. Like, how much fucking work is that? I brought this up last night. We have a friend now that was, I don't want to give too much detail, but he, in a psychotic episode, he did the worst possible thing and murdered somebody. And now he just called me today and he got his first release where he ate an outlaw steak. And I go, what does that mean? Because I've only talked to him on the phone twice. He's like, he got his first release from, what do you call it? Not guilty by reason of insanity. And he's a kid that was a stand-up comic fledgling. I'll say fledgling. I saw a tape. I'm not going to give him
oversell.
And today was his first release, and it almost seems like if you murder someone, he has so much freedom compared to just Bingo being in a small term lockup for her own benefit, where she was a hardcore prisoner just to get in to see her, and she's wearing prison scrubs. And this guy's like, yeah, I can only use the internet for so long. Like, she couldn't even have a phone or anything. And
shoelaces,
voluntary lockup just for, like, hey, I'm switching meds. You know, when you're coming,
you need to go be stabilized. You need to be monitored because going off them and coming back on them, it's all very complicated and dangerous with side effects.
Yeah, but if you behead someone,
it's not that complicated.
He didn't behead anyone. I don't want to give too much away. I don't want someone finding this guy. Yeah, he has all the freedom in the world, which You should have. It's like Scandinavian prison where they try to actually rehabilitate you, where here you just make them worse. And you have to deal with that shit.
Yeah, because there's no treatment inside, and we could rehabilitate people. We hold them long enough to rehabilitate them. We just don't put any funding into programming. We don't care to send them out into the world with real skills.
I remember my question is just to get a guy a bus pass. How much work is that?
Well, so the library card, actually. The bus pass, you go up and, you buy the tickets, but the library card, his ID is a parole ID. So it's not, it's a piece of paper with a picture on it, and it's, it's from ICE, but it doesn't look like a real ID. And he's not technically a resident. He's not.
Is it like kind of in the old days of video stores where if you wanted to get porn, you could only go to certain...
I found the nicest looking woman at the counter and hoped that she would be as nice as she seemed.
Is there like an option? Like, because I'm very fascinated by like the whole deinstitutionalization in the 80s and Reagan and stuff. Like, is the goal to have more mental institutions but better ones? I mean, is that
I'm not speaking for the Florence Project. I'm speaking totally as myself. I think that the answer, and I say that with too much confidence, but I believe that it might be to build actual treatment facilities across the country and then phase out prisons, because most of the people who are in our prisons outside of marijuana and petty crimes are people who are seriously mentally ill, and we cannot eradicate them. It doesn't work.
So are those like versions, I guess, essentially of what we used to have as far as psychiatric hospitals,
but humane
right
treatment,
right? No. I
You think that's possible?
I have a small idea that I would like to make possible when the time is right.
Well, you're a woman. You can't have grand ideas like Lincoln.
Of course, but I have a small one, and my small idea is to find a low enough security detention center and a hippie enough med school type RN whatever program, and have a sort of clinic where the people who are doing their residency, who are getting their education, who are becoming doctors and nurses, go in and treat the detainees, because then they get real treatment. These doctors and nurses will be informed about it for the rest of their lives. And we have a little bit more transparency. Maybe everyone starts acting right.
Do you believe that there are enough qualified people to make these decisions? Because, let me qualify this. We live in a community of us where it's easy to believe that, we don't consider ourselves smart people, so... Do you think there's really enough smart people that could do this on a national level?
Yes.
There's enough smart people.
I really do think so.
But don't you then have to change the motivation for becoming a psychiatrist, for becoming a therapist? Don't you have to change that from being like... From being financially motivated to feeling like I am doing a service industry job, I am helping people, I am a fireman, I'm a police officer, I am, etc. Just because I feel like that's happening in all medical professions.
But they don't have to do it forever.
Right.
I'm talking about like a Peace Corps, Teach for America type program. Just get people in there. They don't burn out, and just let them see what it is and let detainees benefit from the treatment. It's a small idea, but
it's a small idea, but I find myself going, oh no, any rational human being, but I have built a small enough social circle where I think that's humanity. The people in this room, that's humanity. Yes. It's not. People in humanity vote for fucking Trump, and they're fucking racist and Nazis because they got their work got fucking shut down, and they're fuck you, and they blame a president.
Doug Becker's right here.
The thing about doing this work, and I mean doing it in Arizona, doing it in California, doing it in Alabama, wherever you're doing it, is that you're going to have such a stark contrast. You're going to have defense attorneys and prosecutors.
Let me stop you right there. When you were in Alabama doing this work, how much did you hang out with locals?
This is
See?
actually no. I'm going to tell you the God's honest truth. Actually, we were at a public. I left Alabama because I was at a public defender's office that became extremely harassing, and it was a man who was a good old boy from Alabama, and there were a number of us women there who were from out of town. We had gone to schools outside of the state. We wanted to come and help, and he tried to run us out, and he successfully ran me out. And that's what you're up against in Alabama, and that's on the defense side. You know, I mean, that's supposed to be.
I'm talking about after work when you're at a bar in Alabama talking to the actual locals, townies, where you go, oh shit, these are the people that vote. I'm a little bit afraid to be here, and they're everywhere.
It's more driving around because, you know, Birmingham and Montgomery, they have their sort of liberal bent to them. There are civil rights orgs there. Birmingham is more cosmopolitan than people think. I won't defend it, but
I'll go to where
but
you
in the
live.
middle of nowhere. If I'm
in
in
the
ADOC,
city you live in a hipster part of it. But have you ever gone to a outside of town suburb bar where you go, ooh, fuck?
I mean, with the Alabama Department of Corrections, prisons and detention centers are in the middle of nowhere for a reason. It's not an accident. It's so that family members can't get there. It's so that it's harder for them to get legal representation. So these facilities are all over
50
Alabama
cents
in
a
the middle
minute
of
for a
nowhere.
private fucking telephone call.
I won't comment on how much
it's
it costs,
fucking
but
gross.
it's a problem.
It's deep.
But I mean, that's where you see the people, and that's especially where you see the signs. I think what's really interesting is driving around anywhere you are and seeing the lawn signs, seeing the bumper stickers, seeing the flags out front, and that's the part of Alabama that really gets
Hang on,
to
I want you to look up how many people voted for president in the last election. Like, how many people voted?
Speaking of being in different towns, though, can I just say this while I was looking it up?
Yeah.
I took Valentina into Old Bisbee today, and within 5 minutes, she was like the queen of like the Spanish-speaking lesbian block. That like
I'm going to repeat my joke for the
we went
fourth
in for
time.
5
Never repeat a joke, but I'm going to repeat it.
No, we just went in for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden, she's like everyone's best friend.
Everyone's
She's
amazing,
like,
yeah.
I just this like straight English speaker, and she's just like fucking lingoing
All right,
Spanish and making.
Morgan's very good
Then
at
I-
introducing people.
Then I'm going to get to that. But the joke I did when you told me this earlier this morning about that, and I go, she ain't no lesbian. She's never just been made love to improperly by a woman. That's why I switched to dicks. And I thought that was very funny.
I know you thought it was funny 5 times today.
I know.
I
But
still think it's
hey, you
fun.
know what?
still
This
think it's funny.
podcast isn't about us. It's about the listeners. But that's what I was going to ask you. Because for the listeners, since we still don't have video and hopefully never will, but we're going to have to. You're a very attractive woman.
Oh, thank you.
And I wanted to ask you how many times a client fell in love with you, quote, marks.
My clients are extremely mentally ill. I think
That'll
So
help.
they don't know you're hot?
I think that I will answer this question seriously. I think that this is one thing that does come up in representation a lot. A lot of women a lot of the people in this field are women. And a lot of the people that we represent are men. And this comes up a lot also because there are cultural differences. We're representing people from different cultures, machista culture. I'm sorry that I just did that. I know it offends you.
I'm offended by everything.
But I forgot what I was saying.
It's all right. I say horchata a lot, and Doug gets furious.
Different cultures.
That's the only way you say
Represented by
horchata.
different
It's
cultures.
Horchata.
horchata.
I love
More
horchata.
machismo.
They're interested in you based on the different cultures.
Oh yeah.
All right,
Is anyone
I'll tell you
interested?
my story
Okay.
because that's the only.
Oh, now I remember. Okay.
I
different
had a
cultures and
pen
people.
pal
Okay,
on
good.
death row, and I was arguing. I wasn't. I did nothing but be a pen pal. It was a kind of a joke thing that ran for 3 years, and I visited him in Stark, Florida, on death row several times. But I also became engaged with his caseworker, who was a cute girl like you, and then I pooned her.
My friends are gonna kill me for for me just like sitting here and letting you say this to me.
What? We had a love affair until she realized I sucked in bed, and then she didn't want anything to do with me. But he was like, "Oh, she's really hot," and I like, "Oh yeah, I met her." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I pooned her. I have a girlfriend. I shouldn't talk about this." But yes, there's a attorney death row inmate privilege like attorney client.
But I think it's also, by the way, can I say really, like, again, as having been the most boring person in a couple of mental institutions, I can say that.
Flesh that out.
Well, no,
you
I
were
just
talking about this morning.
Right, I've
You've
only
been in a mental.
Yeah, but
Morgan
for like
Murphy.
depression and anxiety and like it's just like I have no fun stories, and I used, it's like.
But you got
right, but I say like, you don't.
Locked,
yeah, but like I used to do
up.
not even a joke,
Hang
but I
on.
used to say like
Morgan,
you can't.
Morgan,
you don't, what
for the listener?
Yeah.
You have spent time in a mental institution.
Yes.
That's what they're missing. Sorry. This is what I have to do with Andy.
No, that's all
Andrist.
right. But now I forgot where I was going with my story.
You had the most boring stories in group.
Yeah.
Where you go,
but
I'm
I was
just here
saying,
for depression.
But I was saying that like in all of those situations, in any situation that's heightened, I feel like you're more inclined to be like, oh, I think I'm in love with this person that you're not in love with. You're just sort of trauma bonding with them. And like, I remember this guy would always want to go to lunch because it was really embarrassing because he was a sex addict and he felt safe with me, which I was like, that's an insult, I think. What's
wrong with me?
I know. But then like, after a while I was like, it wasn't a doctor-patient thing or a lawyer-patient thing. It was a patient-patient thing. But I was like, oh, I'm definitely in love with this, mentally ill coke and sex addict. Because we go to lunch
hand
every
in
day.
hand.
Yeah, but also because we went to lunch every day, and like because the subject of conversation wasn't what's the weather, blah blah blah. It was, oh, remember, like, oh, it's not that bad. I only wanted to kill myself 5 days ago. I only wanted to kill myself 6 days ago. Like it was very bonding and traumatic and awful and great. And I knew I'm not in love with this guy, but I am so affected by the emotion of the situation that maybe I am. And maybe there's like a bond that just in heavy situations, it's like why people fuck their, comatose husband's wife or whatever, like that kind of shit. Like when things are heavy, emotions get all twisted up, like in a Dyson.
I think Morgan's absolutely right.
Yes!
And I think trauma bonding is a really good way to put it. I don't know if that's an actual term or if you coined it, but it's brilliant.
I think someone yelled that at me once, so that's what we were doing.
Hey, killer termites and listeners of all effects, hashtag, when you talk about this podcast, hashtag trauma bonding.
Trauma bonding.
And give us an example on Twitter.
Yeah.
And hashtag it trauma bonding. One time that you go, oh, fuck. Well, this kid I can't talk about, but we have a similar story. This kid that's not guilty by reason of insanity. We have a similar story. And that's what led me to him. It's trauma bonding.
I do think that on top of the trauma bonding...
Except I was just drunk and she needed to die, but...
I think that on top of the trauma bonding, our clients have no one. When you're seriously mentally ill, it's not your fault, but people will lose their patience after a certain amount of time, however much they love you. And so I think when you come and you're able to talk to people, visit them in detention, and help them find a place to live when they get out, it's immediately. I'm not gonna lie. I call one of my clients brother, and he called me sister once, and his family is very much not with us. And so I'm not going to tell him, no, I'm not your sister. No, you can't call me that.
Is he Colombian?
He's not.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
See,
Have you played favorites?
I have a folder in my email of crazies, which are like legitimate crazy people, where they fucking irritate the shit out of me, most of them. And why? Like a lot of times, will you just stop fucking emailing me? And then I go, why did I do that? Because I might be the outlet. I need to be reminded of that, but I'm not reminded of it.
That's part of that's part of the service that I can give someone. If I come to detention and no one's treating you, the food is terrible, you can't sleep, and you can't say anything back to the guards, the nurses won't listen to you. If I show up and you can yell at me, that's part of my service to you. That's part of my representation, because you can't yell at anyone. And if that is therapeutic for you, and a lot of us do this.
These are not locked up people. These are free range crazies, as I said.
But that's the problem. Like, you publicize your email address, their mom doesn't. That's why they email you.
But I just like hardcore where you go like I got my own problems. I'm not mentally ill. I'm a drunk. I try to be mentally ill through alcohol. Either way, I wake up and I'm like, I can't deal with this shit. Janis Joplin from the UK. Listen, you annoy the fuck out of me. I have no idea what you're saying. She's number 4 on my top crazies list. I just met one of my top crazies, and he's fucking crazy. But meeting him made it so much different. Because are you just a fuckwit? But no, you're mentally ill. And meeting him made it okay. And I put him on Chaille. I go, email Chaille.
I knew that's what you were talking about. I'm like, oh, is he talking about my crazy? Because I think you're...
Yeah. And then there's
another crazy. That's my crazy now. I mean, don't...
Number 1 is some fucking Russian woman who lives in London that all she does is talk about your disgusting transvestite blue. Bingo. And she'll never refer to her in a female pronoun. It's always, he is disgust. How do you fuck her? That she's an old woman. We found her.
I want to be clear that Bingo is very attractive.
Well, not to this Russian, and I can't even tell if she must be crazy, but I don't know if the language barrier. But like, I feel bad when I shit on people because I wake up angry and I like sometimes go, fuck off. Will you stop emailing me? A lot I've figured out how to block just so I don't yell at them.
But that's like, I feel like everybody with. I have a lot of friendships with people who are, have their own issues with mental illness, and obviously I have my own shit, and
but it's boring.
It's so boring. Well, it's boring, and then when I really do need people, I tend to not ask for people, so I end up isolating a lot in my own shit. So it's sad and boring, and I don't bring other people into it usually. But I have friendships where it's sort of like I take care of you, you take care of me. And that's like a really beautiful thing. I have friends who get depressed and I get depressed. And if we're lucky, we get depressed at different times. So the other person can take care of the other person. But then there are circumstances where you see somebody sort of cycling through their own shit over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And
that's
even if it's just a friend, even if it's not a fan or whatever, I think it just becomes exhausting for everybody. Right? Like the case of like, oh, well, at some point you have to have some awareness about your shit or some plan for healing or resolution or whatever it is. But I think that's like a smaller example of like, oh, dude, I can't handle it anymore. And that's why I'm so amazed by people who work with people who are mentally ill, because you don't have the option of going, I am fucking out. I'm tapping out of this.
When I first got together with Bingo, she was at her worst of just out of an institution, and I thought it was funny for a while, and I get to a point where I go, I don't know if I can deal with this because this is serious. This, like, when it went bad, when it was funny, and she's cute and talking on a banana, that's funny, but then when she's cutting her head open, like, I brought this in. It's like having a kid. Like,
it is a lot like having a kid, and not in an infantilizing way. I mean, I find this with release clients a lot. You're seeing everything for the first time through their eyes, and it's just unbelievable. You're showing them drive-throughs and iced coffee, and I'm sorry.
No.
It just feels very. My mom always, talks about how hard it is to have a kid, and I can definitely not do that. But it does feel very terrifying because you can only be with them for so much, and you are responsible in a lot of ways. Even if you're not actually responsible, you're morally responsible on your own level because you know things about them that other people don't know, and so you feel like maybe I'm the only one that can make sure that they're okay. But you can't be with them all the time.
But you definitely introduce them to iced coffee, not cold brew, right? Because cold brew is a fucking
actual iced
joke.
coffee.
It's a
Actual
prank.
iced
It's
coffee.
a prank.
They loved
It's a prank against white people.
To close this up, you've been doing this for how long? Working with mentally ill immigration detainees?
Since January.
8 months.
How long do you think you can keep doing this before you go back to crazy? Like,
So
how
we have
defeating is it? That's what I'm getting at.
It depends on the day, and I sometimes I think that I went to a visit and that I held it together. And, you always hold it together because you're holding it together for your client. It's about your client. It's not about you. But you think, okay, I didn't feel anything. It's fine. And then later that day, you're just sobbing and you don't know why. And tears are just coming down your face. And I think that there are different approaches. I think that, you can really put all of yourself into this work and burn out, but know that you did a couple of years where you gave all of yourself. And then there are, there are companies that are based off of trying to figure out how to make the stuff sustainable, how to make it so that people can do this work for 10 or 15 years.
That's what I was going to ask you.
And
What's the burnout rate that you've heard of since starting?
It's high. It's high, and I've seen it.
So what's 2 years? About it?
I would say that that's accurate. I would say that that's not far from the truth. And I want to do this for the rest of my life. And this is a lot of what I work on a personal level. And my office is unbelievable and very open. It's a bunch of women. It's so great. Everyone takes care of each other.
It only costs half as much.
Oh, that's so good. It hurts. But we work a lot around, and this goes back to the boundaries thing, around what are the boundaries and how do you practice self-care? How do you take care of someone without making it about you and without making it so that you cannot take care of another person the next day?
How much do you make it about you? Like, how much of it?
A lot. All of it. I see everything in my clients. I see everything. I see the manic episodes and I know what they are, and I see the depression and I know what it is, and I see the schizophrenia and I didn't go through it, but I've had clients and seen the many forms that schizophrenia can take and the many, lives that it will lead you to. It's all very, very emotional because it's people. This work is about people, and this work is about lives, and I don't think that you can do it and separate yourself from it. I don't think that
I'm
you
interested.
can.
Yeah, do you use your personal story?
Completely, and it depends on the person. Again, it really depends on the person. My clients don't know I'm gay. A lot of them are Latino. Like I'm not going to tell them that. But I had a client in Alabama.
They don't ask you about the Patriots tattoo.
I try and wear my blazer, and then it becomes an issue once they're out of it.
And the New England Patriots screensaver on your cell phone.
Before you decide whether to donate to, please
the
plug
Florence Immigrant and Refugee Rights Project.
Just go to firrp.org. It's all there. And you have a huge staff. I was just looking down here. You guys, that's a mountain of workers.
Tucson and Florence. It looks like a mountain of workers, but we're serving all of Arizona.
Okay,
men, women, and children.
Before you blow this off, understand that Valentina Respresso Matoria.
Nailed it.
I did it Chinese, I think. Yeah, before I might donate, I might not. Remember, she has Pat the Patriot.
Oh, guys,
the
please
original.
don't hold it against me.
No, that's the best.
Are you kidding me?
Second best football logo ever. The old New England Patriots logo of Pat the Patriot hiking a football. Second best to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers old, I can't remember his name, something the Buck. I don't know. Yeah, she has that tattooed on the back of her bicep. I mean, chick bicep, to put it in perspective.
Hey, Doug, you asked me to locate the turnout for the 2016 presidential election.
Yeah.
55%.
Okay. No, the number of people.
Okay.
This is what I was getting to.
I got it.
No.
The number of voters eligible
Yeah.
is over 250 million. Turnout was 138 million.
138 million.
55.5%.
If you were to, there's how many people locked up in American prisons, Valentina?
I don't know, but I believe
About 2 million.
At least 75.
It's around
That's a
2
weird
million.
guess.
Yeah.
Weird guess.
It's growing every day.
Yes.
If you started a ticket that just affected the families and friends of people in prisons, so let's say, well, they're mostly minorities, so they have the most relatives.
But the problem
If you
is,
could motivate those people
No.
to vote for any ticket, you would have a shitload of voters just on the get these fucking people out of prison ticket.
the problem, and that's amazing in terms of
Don't
turning
look
people-
at the problem. Look at the solution. Go ahead.
Of course.
Sorry. I love to yell at you.
Felons can't vote.
Exactly. Is that
No,
the
the families and
disenfranchisement-
Yeah,
friends.
they're
Yeah, but
also
they've
felons.
Also got
Yeah, yeah.
charges.
And they're felons and their
Yes.
kids are felons.
The number
And the other half have been deported.
Then
this is
have
why
more
we're so
kids and make them vote when they're 5.
You've just got down
We'll
to
have more kids.
what Hillary got.
No, I
the population is 2.4 million, but they think that the number should actually reflect the number of people that are through the system. That could be as much as 12 million. That are constantly going incarcerated and in that vicious cycle that never ends.
I think a final thought by Becker is what this podcast needs.
No, we're gonna let her close, but then we'll let him
Yeah.
just tag on.
You
All
like
right.
what you've
All right,
heard?
Becker,
well,
you're-
here's
it's on
why
you.
it's wrong.
It's on you.
No, I mean we've gone round and round on this. We don't know what to do, and quite frankly, we all speak different languages. We all do different jobs, and quite frankly, if you want to deport somebody, deport them. But you're sending them back to where they came from, American jobs.
He's saying that American jobs are outsourced to places where.
I got it.
Yeah, I got
That
it.
was the old joke. Yeah, they're sneaking our country, taking our jobs. They go, they had your job. They came back to get some other job.
FERP.org.
Thanks, some people. Barry Scheck, The Innocence Project.
Yeah, Barry's unbelievable. I just wanted to thank the listeners, if you haven't turned this off yet, for caring and for listening about our clients, their people, and I think that gets lost in all of this. It gets lost because they're immigrants, and it gets lost because they're mentally ill, and it gets lost because they're adults, and it gets lost because they're male, and those aren't the populations that people want to donate to or represent, but they need people, and really I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I thank you, Doug, for having me on, and I thank you, Morgan, for introducing me to everyone that I've met, and I just thank everyone. This is a really unbelievable experience.
Oh, and I'll be at the Comedy Store on Wednesday.
She made you not cry.
I do enough crying in court.
Ooh, if I catch your tears, can I sell them online?
Oh, to Republicans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Finally, someone gets a Becker joke. What's a good song to close on? He'll edit the pauses, but
Tammy Wynette.
no, just some immigrant.
No, crazy.
I told you, because of copyright, the only thing I do now is I put in Mexican accordion music.
Perfect.
Completely legal.
Un narco corrido.
Thank you.
Te escribí una carta y no me contestaste. Ya buscaste, ya cambiaste dirección. Como tengo unas cosas que reclamarte, me obligaste gracia que te canto esta canción. Te fui a mi casa por vivir feliz contigo. Y me pagaste como algunos pagan más. Por tu culpa estoy viviendo, ahora vivo. A esta vida no me puedo acostumbrar. A veces lloro muy cerca de las botellas, especialmente cuando me acuerdo de ti. Si amanece no se miran las estrellas, si oscurece nunca brillan para mí. Una radiola y dos amigas me acompañan. Mi casa nueva muy distinta a las demás. Tiene un letrero de color en la vidriera. Y una cualquiera es la que ocupa tu lugar.
Are we at the 20?
Yep.
All right. Please hold. We have to, at the 20-minute mark, we're always obligated to do
Cocktails.
We'll work on it.
I think we got
But
that.
I was gonna
God
say,
damn it,
I was gonna say something of like,
Don't
you might want to
save
warn
it.
your
Write it
fans.
down.
No, but it would have been for that. Is you might want to warn your fans that they donate to mentally ill adults. Some of the money might go to kids.
That's why I said don't say it. Say it when we come back.
All right.
God damn it! I had a fucking point now.
I know. That's the worst. 'Cause